Hello, it's Ben McClymont from NFL Talk UK, and we're here for the Week 13 preview show, and I'm with my man, Jeff Reinebold. How are you, Jeff?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. But I'm a little bit sad because we're still one man down.
One man down. You know, but hey, I understand when you got a baby, it's your life has changed.
Yeah.
So, Tom Julian, we hope we get you back here next week.
Yeah, you better be watching too. He's 2 weeks into fatherhood. Yes, dadhood, I was going to call it, into fatherhood. So he'll be back next week, hopefully. But for another week, he's looking after the little one. But Jeff, we've had another big week. You were over here this week on Sky Sports. How was the experience? You had a great show.
It was awesome. You know, anytime you get a chance to sit and talk football with Rob Ryan, it's a priceless experience. It was really like being down in the pub, and you know, Sean and Neil are our old partners from way back, so it was fun. I'm going to miss Rob. He brings a lot of energy and a lot of knowledge and a lot of, you know, just kind of frankness to the show that sometimes you don't get when you got guests like that.
Yeah, it's good fun, isn't it? But you were saying Bucky Brooks is coming over?
Bucky Brooks from NFL Network will be in, and Moving the Chains podcast with Daniel Jeremiah. Bucky's one of the top NFL Network analysts when it comes to the draft, and I think he does an outstanding job. I think he's going to add an awful lot to us, and then you know, that'll be a big plus to the show, I think.
Yeah, hopefully the banter continues well. Hopefully he's got a little bit about him, so stick it in with you guys.
Well, it'll be interesting to see if we can break him down a little bit, because Bucky's a kind of a very smart guy, but a little bit on his podcast, kind of a little bit serious. So we'll try and break him down.
Good luck to you, Bucky. Okay, let's talk. Should we talk a little bit about last week? Let's start last week.
Man, what about those games?
Some good games, aren't there? I thought, personally, that the Packers were going to pull it out of the bag and that Aaron Rodgers come back, turn the tables was on, but it wasn't. They got shot down by the Vikings 24-17. Did you see that coming, Jeff? Or do you think
I picked the Vikings, and here's the reason why. I just really felt like they overall are a better football team. You know, you start from that defense, which has great players at all three levels. Then you go to the offense, where you got Kyle Rudolph, an outstanding tight end. Adam Thielen's having a career year. Stephon Diggs, and you know, bring Cousins into the equation. I just really feel like that is probably the best team in the NFC North. They may not win the NFC North, but I think they're the best team in the NFC North. On the other side, I tell you what, Benny, when you watch the Packers, you just see how much they ask Aaron Rodgers to do. I mean, the fact that they have won 4 games this year is amazing to me, really, because that is not a great lineup.
No, I find them so uninspiring to watch. When you watch teams like the Bears now, not as good a personnel maybe, but the schemes they're running up, and you watch the Chiefs, the Rams, etc. There's so much going on. And when you watch the Packers, it just seems very old school, doesn't it? There's a couple of routes going on, and you're asking Rodgers to make these tight window throws. You're not getting much out the backfield. I think Aaron Jones has started rushing well now, but they're just not doing what other teams are doing schematically.
Yeah, you know what? They're not a team that's going to use a lot of motion. They're not going to be a big formation team. Personnel group is basically going to be 11 all the time, one tight end, one back. And, you know, it really is mind-boggling when you think about how good you can't even imagine, really, how many numbers Aaron Rodgers would hang if he was playing in that Kansas City offense or if he was with that Ram offense, because he still makes some unbelievable throws.
Yeah, that would be good to see. But we'll have to leave the Packers now. But the Vikings on a little bit of a run. If they can go on now, they might be able to turn over the Bears. And Sheldon Richardson came up with 2 sacks. It's like you're talking about that big defense. They need players to step up. It hasn't quite been in this season, has it? Daniel Hunter's had a few good games. So if they can all come together, then and Xavier Rhodes in the back. There's a great personnel group there. They just need to really step it up.
Yeah, you know, it was interesting when they started the year. They didn't really play very well,
no.
and by their standard anyway. And you know, they had some issues off the field, and you know, but they seem to have started to come together and gel. And I think one of the things that the viewers have to understand is it's now that it really matters. You know, you say in the NFL you want to play your best football in December and January, and I think the Vikings are positioning themselves. Now, it was tough that they lost that game against the Bears a couple weeks ago, but they're going to get the Bears again, and they got to take care of their business each week until they get the Bears again.
Yeah, like you said, coming up big. Cousins, 342 yards, 3 touchdowns. That is coming up big. So they're very much in the wildcard hunt. Another team in the wildcard hunt is the Colts. The Indianapolis Colts are turning the tables. Andrew Luck had a big game. He had 343 yards and 3 touchdowns. Is that the same stat? 1 yard more for Andrew Luck. He did throw a couple of interceptions, which was a random time at the end of the first half where he threw a couple of picks to Casey Howard out of nowhere. But Ebron had 2 touchdowns. The Colts are turning the table, aren't they? They're really shooting up for the Texans.
Yeah, and when you watch that game, the thing that, you know, struck me about the game was that first of all, they have completely changed. Quentin Nelson and that offensive line have completely changed
Nasty
what
now,
they
mate.
used to be. And, you're not seeing, Luck on his back every time he steps back to throw the football. So I think that's the first upgrade. Their defense is tougher. They're a more physical football team than they've ever been. And sometimes if you're going to be a playoff team, you got to win a few games in your season ugly. And I thought that was what they did against Miami. It was not a very pretty game, and one that they can take a lot from to improve. You talked about the 2 interceptions. But I think when you play playoff level football, you have to win a couple games ugly.
Yeah, especially a team like this. They were both evens going into the game, so they've now edged well ahead. A game ahead. Sorry, of the Dolphins now in the wildcard race. So that could really be crucial at the end. The Dolphins, are they done, or are they still kind of?
Well,
competing
I
for
think
wildcards?
I think this week they've got the Bills in Miami, and that's a big rivalry game. That goes back a long time to Jim Kelly and Dan Marino days. I just think that if they can't take care of business against Buffalo at home, then you can pretty much write them off as a playoff team for the rest of the year. If they can get that done, they're still alive. And, really right now you just want to be alive. You got to get to the dance some kind of way. There's a lot of football left to be played.
Yeah, the Bills don't really give you anything though, do they? Josh Allen.
No, they're going to make it tough.
Yeah, he turns up, but Josh Allen will run over you if he has to get a win. I like watching Josh Allen a lot. He's got a lot of improvement to do, but I do like watching him. We'll move over to another potential wildcard team going into its Broncos, and they put the hammer down on the Steelers. Like, thought the Steelers would come through. They're competing for the AFC number 1 seed spot, and they lost to the Broncos. I didn't personally see it coming. I thought this was going to be a big game for Ben Roethlisberger. Loads of yards, but they just didn't get the job done.
Yeah, I picked the Steelers too, Ben. And when you look at, I think about the first quarter of that game, there was a blocked field goal and really a touchdown that came off the board when the tight end ran a little delay route, and he comes back out the other side. He's wide open. There's just one DB to beat, and he tries to run him over at the goal line. Ball gets knocked out. It goes out of bounds for a touchback. So that's 10 points off the board right there. And had they kept those 10 points, the game would have been over early. But you got to give the Broncos credit for biting and fighting and scratching and clawing, doing everything you possibly could to hang in and win the game at the end, which is what they did.
That's what the Broncos have, isn't it? They've got a gritty style. They've got Philip Lindsay, the rookie. He rushed for 110 yards and a touchdown, averaging 7.9 on the ground in that game. I think he's over 6 yards for the season on the ground. So he's running really well. Emmanuel Sanders had 86 yards and a touchdown, and Case Keenum does not give up. He'll always scrap in the corner, won't he? Doesn't matter who you're playing, he'll show up.
He is a guy that probably plays better than his ability says he should, just because he's such a great competitor. And I talked to Emmanuel Sanders during the offseason, and I said, "How do you feel about your new quarterback?" And he was really excited because Case is a guy that he's known since his college days, and they have competed against one another. Both of them are incredible competitors, and Cortland Sutton, that young receiver that they promoted when they traded Demaryius Thomas. I tell you what, they are something to handle offensively because they got 2 good running backs. They can run the ball. Keenum is going to keep you in every game, and they've got threats outside that can make big plays. So again, it's not over for the Broncos by any stretch either.
No, to talk about not over the Broncos, we'll move on to sort of the AFC, NFC playoff picture. So the Broncos obviously quite a bit behind the Chiefs. The Chiefs are 9-2, Chargers are 8-3 as well. So that they're looking a bit beyond them. Do you reckon they can even catch the Chargers, or do you think the Chargers are playoff bound?
I think the Chargers are going to be a playoff team. I just don't know as we look going ahead. Unless they get hurt, unless Phillip Rivers, let's say for example Phillip Rivers will go down. That's why I say we got so much football to play. You look at the Redskins 3 weeks ago, everybody said, well, they're going to win the NFC East. And now Alex Smith goes down. We saw what Colt McCoy is. He's a guy who can make a few plays out of the pocket with his feet, but he's not going to beat you from in the pocket. And now it's going to put too much, in my opinion, on that defense. So the Cowboys have a clear road there, and who would have thought that 3 weeks ago? So it can all change real fast.
Yeah, it can. So if we're talking about the AFC now, so the Broncos are 5-6. You look at that playoff picture for the wild cards. Ravens and the Colts currently at 6 and 5. Sorry, they're the ones behind the Chargers coming in. So Colts, Ravens, Broncos behind, Dolphins behind. Personally, I'm seeing this as a Colts spot to lose. They're the ones playing the football at the moment.
I agree with you. Now here's the reason why. If you look at those teams, who has the best quarterback? Who has the quarterback that can win a game for you, and particularly from the pocket? I think Lamar Jackson's a great story, and he's an exciting guy to watch. And I've followed him since his career in Louisville, where he rushed for 50 touchdowns in 3 years as their quarterback, won a Heisman Trophy, did a lot of really amazing things. But the one thing that you keep seeing when you watch the kid play and then you go back and look at his college tape is he's not a very refined passer. And eventually teams are going to, commit to stopping him running the football. And when that happens, he's going to have to win with his arm. And I don't know if he's good enough right now.
No, do you see him keeping that job for the rest of the season, or do you think Joe Flacco?
Well, I think that's a really interesting dynamic because, they moved up in the draft to draft him. So obviously they'd like him. I think it makes financial sense for him to do that, looking to the future. The other thing, Benny, is when you watch him go on the field, you see a guy that his teammates obviously have a great deal of respect for because they kind of rise up when he goes out to play because he's, he plays so hard, he puts himself at risk. Where Flacco, on the other hand, is that just same demeanor. Almost sometimes his body language isn't very good. And I think he's a guy that his teammates want to see succeed. So I would not be surprised if he has another game. Now remember, he beat 2 bad defenses. Yeah. But if he has another good game this week, I would see him being the starter the rest of the way.
Yeah, it must be nice for the offensive line when you see your quarterback trying to run like safeties over. It doesn't always go so well for him, but it's full.
Well, and I think you make a great point because that's what everybody on the sidelines, everybody on the field sees, and he's out there putting himself at risk to try and win the football game. And that's not to say Joe Flacco doesn't. It's just Lamar Jackson is more dynamic in how he does it. And I think that is a way to inspire your teammates, and that's what great leaders do.
Yeah, definitely. So let's move on to the NFC playoff picture. We've got the Saints and the Rams, both 10-1. They're in prime position. Bears 8-3, and then you've got the Cowboys winning the East, like we said earlier. Behind that, we're looking at the Panthers, Seahawks, Vikings, maybe the Redskins, maybe the Eagles. Where do you see this kind of going for the wild card spots?
I think the Vikings should. I think the Cowboys can. Almost should because of you look at their schedule down the stretch. I think the Eagles are going to have a tough time. Even though they beat New York last week, that was really New York more losing the game than the Eagles winning the game. Manning threw that horrible interception, with 10 seconds left to go before halftime when they could have kicked the field goal and really taken over control of the game. Then in the second half, it was as if Odell Beckham Jr. and Saquon Barkley just disappeared from the play caller's sheet. They went about 8 minutes straight where neither of them saw the football, and so there's a lot of questions about that in the New York media, obviously. But I just think that Philadelphia is not quite good enough right now.
Yeah. I see this personally between the Seahawks and the Panthers as well.
The Seahawks now, that's a team, good football. Surprising.
Old school. They're running it hard.
And it's interesting because everybody, and I was one of the guys that said this is a roster in transition in the offseason. If Seattle wins 6 to 7 games, that would be a successful season for them. But man, you watch them and they just find ways to win football games. Now, Graham Gano misses what should have been an easy field goal last week, which opens the door for him. But I thought Russell Wilson's play on 4th and 4 to throw the ball deep into the end zone. And what a great throw and catch that was. And, again, credit to Pete Carroll and what he and his coaching staff have done there.
Yeah, it's brave, isn't it? David Moore ran, and if you saw it as well, no one ran an under route. There was no option. Everyone was going
all or nothing right there.
Basically. And they trust himself, and that's what Russell Wilson does. He seems to pull out the bag, and he brings the best out of his other receivers. Like David Moore, no one's heard of him this season. He's got like 4 or 5 touchdowns.
And it seems like every year they've got a guy that, one year it's Lockett, the next year it's David Moore, and, Chris Matthews. I mean, they just seem to get guys out of no place, and they come in and make plays for them. The thing, like I say, is that if you've ever been around a Pete Carroll practice or you've ever spent any time with Pete Carroll, one of the things that will really strike you about him is, first of all, how positive he is, and number 2, how much he wants guys to, as he says, let it rip. Just go out and play with no worry, be free, and just don't worry about the consequences. Just go play. And I think that's what his team is doing right now.
Yeah, definitely. It'd be nice if the rookie, Rashard Penny, got going, but he's had a bit of a tough season, but we'll move on to some rookies who are having better seasons. We'll talk a bit offensive rookie of the year, defensive rookie of the year. We'll start with the offense. There's one clear standout candidate, and it looks like Saquon Barkley, doesn't it?
Well, I think he was the best player in the draft. There's no question. As we evaluated the draft last year for Sky, they asked me who's the best player. I said, without a shadow of a doubt, it's none of the quarterbacks. It's Saquon Barkley. He is a guy without a blemish on him. He's got great work habits, great character, great talent, and has the speed to get outside, has elusiveness, has great ability to catch the football. He's good in pass protection. So for a rookie, there's really nothing the kid can't do, and we see that. The only question is, how do they get him more touches? Because he is, in my opinion, their most dynamic player. Now, Odell Beckham Jr. is going to make some circus catches for you, but when it comes to a guy that you want to get 20, 25 touches to, I'd say it's Saquon Barkley.
Yeah, he's averaging 4.8 yards a rush, 829 yards and 8 touchdowns. He's got 71 catches already. 71 catches for 581 yards. That's ludicrous.
It is amazing for a running back, and I think they're just beginning to scratch the surface. He's been mostly on most of those catches that come out of screens and checkdowns, but I can see where he could be a guy that they can motion out of the backfield in empty sets and get him locked up against the linebacker because he's so good in space. He really has an ability to understand space. He has what we call in coaching spatial awareness, and he knows how to get in and out of his breaks.
Yeah. A few other players in contention. Baker Mayfield's on a very nice run now. So at the moment, Saquon Barkley's at 4-6. Mayfield's at 7-4, and then we've got Nick Chubb at 16-1, who's really coming hot for the Browns. That's nice for the Browns that there's two players that are really in contention.
Yeah, on the same side, and then you factor
Denzel
in
Ward on the
Denzel Ward and David Njoku, and I mean this Browns thing is about ready to pop. And I'm gonna tell you something. There's a lot of guys, a lot of coaches right now that would love to have the opportunity to be the head coach of the Cleveland Browns. And 5 years ago, you couldn't give that job away, but. I heard the odds on Mayfield. I think Mayfield's odds will improve if he goes down to Houston this week and against that Houston Texans defense shows that he can get it done against a first-level defense. Again, look at that Texans defense. They got salty, man. You got J.J. Watt. You got Winston Merciless. You got that man-child rushing off the edge. You got Tyrann Mathieu in the secondary. So I just really think if Mayfield can do that, he's got the personality and the media loves him where he could be like the media darling and end up as the Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, that would be nice to see. I quite like that. I'd like to see the Browns on a little run. So we'll quickly move on to defense as well. So we spoke Denzel Ward earlier. Darius Leonard have made 114 tackles, which is 17 more than anybody else in the league this season. And we've also got Derwin James. And we have Bradley Chubb as well. Bradley Chubb has 9 sacks. He's a bit further down. But Darius Leonard is looking favourite. Derwin James is a bit of a darling of Los Angeles Chargers football as well. Everyone seems to love him as well. So that seems a bit more open on the defense.
Yeah, I think there are a number of guys that in this next 6 weeks have a chance to separate themselves. Chubb's got 9 sacks. That's amazing for a rookie. You look over on the other side of the defense, and there's a guy that's going to go down in the Hall of Fame. Rushing off the other side.
Well, Von Miller
Von Miller's got 11 on the other side. Yeah. He's got 9 as a raw rookie. I think if he can, get hot and get 4 or 5 more down this stretch in the next 6 games, he's going to be a good bet. I also like Leighton Vander Esch. I think people have got to understand that kid right now is on pace to set the all-time record for tackles by a rookie Dallas Cowboy. No rookie has ever led the Cowboys in tackles, and Leighton Vander Esch has a chance to do that. I was sitting with Rob Ryan, and he loves Sean Lee. I mean, loves Sean Lee. But watching Sean Lee coach Leighton Vander Esch during the game, I thought that was really, really cool because there's a veteran who's hurt helping a young kid become a great player.
Yeah, it's a good place to start. So when you're learning from one of the best, taking over his job, it's a nice place to be. Okay, should we sum this up by talking a little bit next week's games? If we've got any games?
Yeah, let's look at some
games. There's some big games coming. The Rams are still pretty hot, and they're going to the Lions. I think that's a bit of a Rams blowout. You feel anything different there?
Yeah, I think that the Rams will continue to play. They recognize that they've got to continue to stay hot. That is going to be a issue that's going to go right down. That conference is going to go right down to the last week. Who's going to get the bye? Who's going to get home field advantage? All that stuff's going to come into play. Every game matters.
Yeah. Any games you like? We talked about the Browns Texans earlier. Texans on the 8-game winning streak, but I think the Browns are going to cause them some trouble.
Well, I think so too, and I think the Browns are playing loose and free, and they're aggressive. Greg Williams is, that's what Greg Williams is. He's aggressive in everything that he does. They have seemed to have captured that. I did a breakdown of Baker Mayfield for our Sky show on Sunday, And it's really, really incredible how much that kid has grown since training camp, and how much, Kitchen, the offensive line, the offensive coordinator, has really done a great job of making things easy for him, giving him formations and motions to help him play well early in his career. So I want to show that to the fans so that the fans can appreciate just how much that kid has grown and why he is probably going to be one of the finalists for Rookie of the Year.
Oh, nice. When's that coming out, this weekend?
They'll be on Sunday.
Oh, tune in Sunday. And if you're going to tune in Sunday, you'll get a bit of Vikings at the Pats. I think this is going to be a juicy game.
This will be a game now. I mean, let's talk about this, because I think it's really valid. And we talked about it a little bit on Inside the Huddle the other day. Tom Brady is starting to show his age. Now, he's still throwing a lot of touchdown passes, still taking his team to 8 wins, I believe it is. But when you watch him play now, Benny, if he's on this hash, the throws outside the numbers and to the sidelines on the other, those don't happen anymore. So the ball, because of his loss of arm strength, the balls have got to go more and more and more inside. That is something that defensive coordinators are going to start to hone in on and make it harder and harder and harder. They'll bunch the middle of the field and force him to throw the ball outside, where you saw last week he skipped a couple in when he tried to really get his arm up and throw it outside. So I think that the Vikings will come in. They're not going to be afraid of the Patriots, and they'll hit them. I think it's going to really come down to how Cousins plays. If he doesn't turn it over, because he can do that now, he can throw an interception or two, that they've got a chance to go in and beat the Patriots. I don't think they will, but I think it's going to be a real good game.
Yeah, I think the Vikings could come out hot. That's the thing. Cousins was pretty much flawless last weekend, so if he does that again, then the Patriots are really in trouble. But I think a lot rides on Tony Michel in the back as well, doesn't it? Like you say, with Tom Brady struggling, they need to run the ball, and they're running the ball hard this year.
Yeah, and Tony Michel has given them a huge upgrade. Here's the other thing, too, is that my understanding is that Rex Burkhead is available to play this week. And if that's the case, that really does help him, because he came out of training camp as the starter. And I think he's a genuine number one back. So now you can have he and Michel. And that's a real handful for folks. Yeah, that is.
Let's move on to the last game quickly. So we've got the San Francisco Chargers going to the Pittsburgh Steelers. And this is a real big game now. We're getting to crunch time. Steelers lose again. They're in trouble. They're slipping out of the, not the playoff berth, but they're definitely for a seed anyway.
Yeah, when you start looking at seeding, and I looked at in that conference, the teams, the top 6 teams who have a chance to get, good seeding. The team that I would say could probably survive the longest in the playoffs without home field advantage will be the Chargers, because in StubHub Center, they have no home field advantage. So they would be the team that I would say could go on the road and win through the playoffs. I think the Steelers, every once in a while they'll show you their warts. Ben makes and now he said this week, I don't care about interceptions. Well, you better care about interceptions, because those things get you beat. And then again, Connor's put the ball on the ground quite a bit as a running back. So they've got to get that interception and turnover thing behind them and continue to play better. I was a little disappointed in their defense, frankly, because I thought Denver ran the ball really well against them. And
first 100-yard rushing attack against them this year, I think. Philip Lindsay really took it to him.
Philip Lindsay's a story, man. Yeah. Here's a kid who didn't get a scholarship out of high school, walked on. Walked on means, for the viewers who aren't familiar with American college sport, when you're a good enough player, the school will pay for your education so that you can come and play on their football team. Well, if you're not good enough, they'll say, well, you can come and try out if you want, and if you're good enough, we'll give you a spot on the club. And that's what happened with Philip Lindsay. His own home state, he wasn't good enough to play in Colorado. Then he wasn't supposedly good enough to be drafted by anybody. Chooses to come and walk on basically again with the Broncos, and has had an amazing. I would love to see that kid get some consideration for rookie of the year.
Yeah, me too. I think he should really be in consideration. He's rushing well. He's over 6 yards a carry, we said earlier, in the league. That's ridiculous stats for your undrafted back.
Well, yeah, and you look at him, Benny. I mean, one of the things I love about him, he's not a big guy, physically not a big guy, but when he gets the ball in his hands, he runs big. He runs angry. He's got great energy, and he's going to bleed and fight and scratch for every yard. I guess that's what happens when you have to prove yourself at every level as you come up.
Yeah, it's a bit like Alvin Kamara, very shifty.
Yeah.
Okay, that's us for this week. Hopefully it's a bit of an insight for you about last week, and look forward to the games this week. But good luck if you're going to have a bet this week as well. Okay, Jeff, it's time to pat ourselves on the back.
All
one
right.
for you, one for me.
All right.
Tom and I have been doing pretty well this year. We
You guys have been. Hey, don't be falsely modest. Be honest. You guys are killing it.
We're doing okay. If you put a few bets on us this year, you'd be well in the profit margin. And that's not just me and Tom. I've heard, Jeff, on the grapevine, your little week previews as well. Were you send some odds out there? You send some bets out there? How's that going?
Well, we pick 3 a week, and let me just say, all you out there, if you'd be following and you just bet the way we say to bet, you'd be making money. Now, if you want to make money, you got 2 choices. You can not watch us and take your chances, or you can watch us and make money.
There you go. So what you can do, you're going to watch us take some chances. There'll be more this week. Me and Tom will be throwing some out there. Jeff will be throwing some out there. So have a read on Oddschecker. Go on Twitter as well. Follow us on Twitter and you'll see all the videos, all the links there. And good luck to you getting the money.